So in this video, I'm going to go over how you can master any skill. Plus, I'm going to give you a lot of tips and tricks of how you can learn faster, plus make the entire process less painful. So that's a promise if you watch the entire video. So here are my credentials. In terms of coding, I went from being a complete novice to getting a job at Amazon, and this was my salary back when I was 25. So I was promoted to SD2, and the salary added up to 300K plus. And then in terms of copywriting, I went from being a pretty bad writer, and I was able to write viral threads on Twitter within 1 year. So you can see that this thread got over 1.6 million views. And I basically wrote about my experience of tech interviewing, and it was able to get this many views. Then on Twitter, I was able to grow from 0 followers to over 25,000 followers within 1 year. In fitness, I was able to go to 225 plates within 3 years. And then in League of Legends, I was able to go from basically not knowing how to play the game to hitting Diamond 4, which is like 0.01% of the population within 3 years. I say all this just to give some credentials, and hopefully it inspires you guys that it is possible to learn so many skills in other unrelated things. I'm not trying to say it to brag, but just to give you some inspiration and just to show you that it is possible. Here's my life story if you want to pause and read it. But basically, in this video, I'm going to go over what is the master framework of learning, what is the mindset shift you need to 10x your learning and learning speed, plus how you can master unrelated skills in the shortest amount of time possible. Then I'm just going to go over 5 mistakes that I've made that have cost me a lot of time, and just give you guys a lot of stories of my entire journey of learning how to code, design, learning how to copyright, fitness, and games. Yeah, it's going to be less of a presentation and more of a story time thing. So hopefully my story gives you guys a lot of actionable advice that you can apply to your own learning journey. So let's get started. The first thing is like, why even bother learning so many skills? So this can probably differ per person, but my main motivation is that it's pretty fun to learn, and I think if you have a lot of skills, then you're generally more valuable and just have more freedom, since you can have more money as a result of that. So I guess my main motivation is like freedom and money, but for you, you're gonna need to find your own like motivation for like learning, because learning, it takes a long time and is somewhat boring and tedious at times. So just having the right mindset of like, why even bother learning is important before you start. Okay, let's move on to this idea of skill stack. I think this concept is pretty important to realize, because it's very hard to be the best at one thing, but if you're able to become top 25 of multiple things, then you actually are a lot more valuable, because the time and effort that it takes to truly master one skill and to become the top in the world is very hard. One way to get around that is that if you're able to skill stack, which is being good at multiple things, it makes you way more valuable, because not many people are able to put different skills together and become top 0.5% of those. So let's say you become the best at engineering and you can write and speak pretty good, then you're still valuable because you're in the top 0.5% of those things. So that's just one thing to note. All right, so what is the master framework for learning anything? And it boils down to basically just feedback and action. What it is, you first will take a lot of action, and then based off of the action, you should have feedback. So whether you did that action correct or not, or if you can improve it. And after you get feedback, then that changes your action. What I've basically done for my entire like learning process is I try to increase the action, and I try to increase the quality and quantity of the feedback. Let me give an example. So when I was doing a lot of interviews and trying to get a different job, basically I spammed LeetCode. So LeetCode is a site to do coding interview questions, and you can see that every day I would do a bunch of questions, and that was basically just taking a lot of action. So after I did a lot of the questions, I would go on YouTube and I would ask other people how I could improve my solutions. So that's an example of feedback, right? I did a lot of problems. Then from those problems, then I was able to have a lot of feedback. I think the general idea is that you should just optimize for having more action and having more quality feedback. Meeting friends that are also trying to learn the same skill that you're learning, or in my case, I watch a lot of YouTube to increase the quality of my feedback. So this is just like the framework that we will be discussing a lot more in this video, but I just wanted to mention that. So the next thing is, what is the mindset shift that you need to have, especially when you want to learn a lot of different skills? So I think the main thing is that I see a lot of friends, they want to learn a skill, but they don't take that much action, or they overthink like how they should do it, or like what's the best way to do it. I think just to get around that, I'm just focus on taking a lot of action, as mentioned. I know in the example of coding, like one of the biggest questions is like, what is the best programming language, or what is the best course to take? And I think a lot of that is just noise. Like you should just focus on building a lot of products, and from building a lot of products, then you'll eventually learn like what's the best thing to use. So one example of that is I built a bunch of products, and I just started with Python because it was like the first one that came up on Google. And then after so many years, I've learned like a lot of programming languages, and I finally learned what is the best way to do it. In the beginning, you'll never really know what is the best way or what is the best course. So a lot of it is just building a lot of products. In this like picture, you can see the number of products I built purely just through a lot of action. So from this action, I was able to learn and get that feedback. Just don't overthink it, and try to think of how you can 10x your action. The second thing is that there's no failure, there's only learning. So right now I am learning how to grow my YouTube channel. So one way I've been trying to keep track of learning is that I have this sheet of all my videos, and after each video, I think of one way to improve the video. So here, this is the first video, and it only got 200 views, but you can see all of the stuff that I thought of that I could do to improve the video. And I've been doing this for over 40 videos, and a lot of it is just doing daily iterations and trying to come up with ways to improve the video. So to a lot of people, like getting 200 views is not that great, but you just have to think long-term, and that if you stick with it, you'll eventually get really good. So that's the same process that I did with my Twitter. So when I started, I was getting tweets that got under like 100 views, but once I tweeted for over 300 days, like tweets that I thought were like, okay, we're still getting over 5,000 views. So it's a lot of just iterating and thinking of how you can improve your process to just get better faster. And then the third one is just thinking how you can increase your action and increase your feedback quality. It's really important is just to break all your limiting beliefs. I think half the battle of learning is just believing that it's possible. So for a lot of engineers, it's ingrained, or it's like common knowledge that engineers can't design or engineers can't market. Even before they start, they get really brought down by this common speak. So the first thing that is, I think is like the most important thing is just to believe that you can do it. And part of that is like at the beginning, it's probably very hard to think that, but to get around that, you just have to think, if I do this 100 times, I will be at least better than when I started. And just having that mindset, especially when you're doing it for months and years, just know that if you keep spamming actions and feedback, you'll eventually be very good. That's the second thing, which is to break all your limiting beliefs. And then how can you cut your learning in half for any skill? So these are the two main ones, which is focus and obsessing over feedback and action. So in terms of focus, I would say that for a lot of the skills that I did, I really only tried to master one skill at a time. So last year, in 2023, I spent most of the year on Twitter, and I wasn't growing any other social channels. Then this year, I'm mostly spending my times on YouTube. So now you can see my growth on YouTube, which is going up, and it's pretty good. But I'm not trying to grow other channels like Instagram, LinkedIn, TikTok, whatever. So I'm only focusing on one skill, and I think just having that level of focus is important. So I'm going to show you guys like one picture, which I really like, which kind of encapsulates this entire concept of focus. All right, so here's the picture. Let me open this in a new tab. But basically, if you try to focus on a lot of different things, then your arrows are like really short. But if you focus on just one thing, then your arrow goes way longer, right? So this is the entire concept of focus, where if you focus on one skill and trying to increase the speed at which you take action and learn, then you'll get way farther than people that try to learn like 10 skills at once. So that's one of the things that I would highly recommend, just focusing on one skill. And then the other point I want to make is that when I was grinding League, so basically this is my account. I only played one champion in one role. To give you guys some overview of League, there's over 200 champions in League and there's over 5 positions. So when I was grinding League, I spent most of my time only playing one champion and only in one role. And I was able to get really mastering this champion because I focused on just playing this, just spamming this one champion. So I think this concept can be applied to so many other things. Even programming, instead of trying to learn like 5 languages, just focus on one language. So let's keep moving forward. Here are like the 5 mistakes that I made, especially that cost me a lot of time. So the first one is not finding people to grow with. You should find a group of people that are learning the same thing, especially if you're on Twitter or Facebook or wherever. I think finding that like-minded group of people is important. A lot of my career, I wasn't just learning stuff solo. And what really changed was that when I was doing tech interviews, I got together a group of people that were also interviewing at companies, and we would give each other mock interviews. And the rate at which we improved was so much faster than if we just did it all ourselves. And I think this can be applied for any types of learning, especially if you're trying to learn design, programming, or Twitter. Just finding people that are on the same level as you and then getting feedback from them of how their experience are, plus just sharing tips and tricks with each other. That will speed up your learning by 10 times. And then the second one is just not focusing. So this was a mistake that I made, especially when I played League. I would play like 20 champions, and then I truly only got better when I just focused on one champion and played in that one lane or one role. So just having the like mindset where even though this is boring, just knowing that if you focus, you will learn 10 times faster. And then the third one is blaming anything but yourself. For a lot of these things, you can blame the algorithm, especially if you're trying to grow on YouTube or Twitter, or you can blame like your age / ethnicity when you're trying to like improve that fitness. And I think the key thing is just like learning and just knowing that you're the only one that can improve your life, and you just have to take full responsibility and just improve from that. Because I think having a loser's mindset or just like thinking there's some other thing that is preventing me from reaching my goals, I think that's like really negative towards learning stuff fast. And then the fourth one is giving up too early. So just to give you guys another example, on YouTube, in the first 6 videos, I was only able to get up to 50 subscribers plus 600 views. So for a lot of people, they would probably quit at this point because it's like a waste of their time. And I think it took me close to 5 hours to film and edit all these videos. And I think if you look at the chart, by video 40, I was able to get a total view count of 20,000. So the chart is even crazier because you'll see that as time goes on, the number of views per video went up. So this is just an example where you can't quit early, especially if you don't see results. And you just have to think about the long term, where if you stay in the game and focus on improving, you'll eventually get to the point where you want to be. And then the last mistake is spamming refs, but not focusing on feedback. So for this one, I think this was like a big unlock for me, because for a lot of the skills, I would just spam action. So I would just do a lot of the thing that I wanted to learn, but I didn't really take time to think of how can I improve this thing. Especially on Twitter, it's very easy to just spam out tweets and not think about how you get better. But I think to learn even faster, you have to take time out of your day to process how would someone that was 10x better than me do this. So I think one way to do that is just having a Google Sheets of all your actions, plus making sure that you're thinking about the 1% improvements per action. So basically here, I'm trying to come up with 1% improvement per video, right? You would just do that for any skill that you want. So yeah, hopefully this was useful. I can make a follow-up videos if you guys want, but let me know what you guys are learning or trying to learn, and hopefully you guys found this video useful. See you.